Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, November 29th, 2025. Apologies for a third video today. I figured it would be timely to talk about redistricting as we go into this upcoming next few days of talking about the Tennessee 7th District election as it pertains to the House of Representatives, as well as we are tracking for another federal court decision, this time in the state of Missouri, sometime in the next week or two, likely to come before December 8th. That's what the judge has told those involved in this case around Missouri's new gerrymander. Now, if you don't know the history in Missouri, I'll give you a quick speed run. If you do know, I'd advise skipping roughly a minute ahead. But essentially, earlier on this year, Missouri decided to take up a new map in a redistricting session at the end of August. They are intended, and they passed the map, signed into law by the governor, to add an additional Republican seat, cracking that 5th district in Missouri, taking it from what it was in the lead up to this election of being one that Kamala Harris won by 24 points, went overwhelmingly to the Democrats, that now would be a solid Republican district that Donald Trump would have won in the last election by roughly 18 points. And so the federal court is now hearing a case from the Missouri state, as led by the Republicans, to try to deny a citizens-led referendum surrounding this congressional map here. Missouri has a process that allows citizens to put any type of decision from the state legislature to a vote in the next election cycle. And so the vision here for Democrats is that they would force a vote statewide on the new gerrymander in the state of Missouri to allow voters to make the choice as to whether or not the new map can be implemented for future elections. Now, the thing about timing here is that in order for that to happen, Democrats would have to gather the signatures by December 11th or December 9th, sometime around then. Anyways, we'll hear from the court if this is something that is actually going to be allowed. But the point is that they are gathering signatures, they are going to get them, and if the vote is taken up, the vote will have to take place in November of 2026, thus prohibiting that congressional map from being implemented until the voters okay the decision in 2028 and beyond. And so that 2026 referendum would delay the implementation of this new congressional map enough so that even if the vote passed and the new map is implemented, it would give Democrats this existing map for 2026 to allow them at least 2 more years of having 2 seats out of the state of Missouri. And right now, Democrats have just 2 seats. Republicans have roughly 6. They have 1 district that is in theory competitive in the next election. The new congressional map guarantees that this 2nd district, while still, not as solid for Republicans as they would have hoped, would still be one that they don't really have to worry about. Republicans would have won it by roughly 12 points in the last election. They won this existing one by roughly 8. And so, although it would still be a little bit more competitive than they would have liked, the district is still solid enough that, shifting the margin here by 6 points would make it so they can feel comfortable about Ann Wagner in Missouri 2nd. But the point is that they are getting rid of this 5th district. They're drawing it away, cracking it in 3 different directions, and they are going right now on one end to the courts where the Democrats are trying to deny the validity of the map and saying that we are allowed to do this. It is explicit that, or because it's not prohibiting us, we are allowed to do it. What they are arguing to the federal court is the exact opposite. The same exact group is saying because the Constitution does not explicitly allow a referendum on congressional maps, it cannot be something that voters can make a decision on. So to the state courts, they are making one case. To the Missouri Supreme Court that is Republican controlled, saying that the absence of any language around the drawing of the map in the way that they did means that it cannot be halted. The state's legislature has the ability to do it. On the other end, they're arguing the opposite to the federal court, saying that you cannot do this on the citizens-led referendum front because it is not explicitly said. So it's a lot of hypocrisy. It's a lot of trying to finagle the law, but we know that this federal court case is being heard by a Trump-appointed judge, recently Trump-appointed judge, not 2019, not 2018, where we've seen some dissent recently. If a FedSoc member, if you know law school, you know what that probably means for this ruling case, but we'll see. We're supposed to hear it before December 8th. Chances are, though, that if this is upheld by the federal court, that this either goes further, which it could, but it might not be in time, or they will halt this vote on the gerrymander here. On the other end, too, we'll see if the Democrats are successful at all in lobbying the state Supreme Court on a different end about the validity of the map. But as it stands right now, that is really what we're waiting on. And so it really shows that Republicans in the state of Missouri are very desperate about trying to pass through this map. This math here doesn't really change much on the national level at all. It would just add to the wins for the Republican Party, rather, of districts they are able to substantively change, right? And the focus here and the point is so that on the margins, let's say Democrats come up short of a national popular vote victory, a victory that might have been awarded if Missouri had 2 safe Democratic districts would no longer be awarded if Democrats are losing on that margin. That's why Texas went after 5 seats. That's why North Carolina went after 1. That's why Missouri went after 1, because on the overall, that 7 seats changed for the 2026 midterms. While it doesn't seem like a lot, can really change the dynamics of a race. And I can show you that on the national stage, if Democrats were to improve by 2 points nationally, they would win the House majority. This would still be a Republican popular vote victory, but yet somehow Democrats are winning that House majority. And it would bring them to 221. But with 5 seats deducted out of Texas and 1 seat out of North Carolina and 1 seat out of Missouri, that 221 number quickly becomes 214. And after it, you see that Republicans jump up to 221. And so the point there would be that, the Republicans are essentially taking on to that majority because they decided to redraw their boundaries. And so Missouri now is deciding to do anything they can to really try to stop the Democratic Party from halting this plan. The Democrats said, we have the means to get the signatures. So instead of trying to, not get people to sign onto this petition, I think the more you elevate it would actually help the Democratic Party. They are, one, trying to change the rules around the way that signatures are gathered, trying to change the rules around what a referendum can do. On the other end, they're now trying to argue to the federal court that you can't even vote on this. They're trying to say that voters don't have a decision. Well, here's the thing. Voters in Missouri in the past have voted on redistricting initiatives in years prior. So there has already been a historical precedent of Missouri voters going to the ballot box surrounding new congressional districts in their state. But the Missouri GOP knows that if it even gets to a vote, it necessitates the postponement of this map, meaning that the whole point of its implementation was never for the 2028 election, never for the 2030 election. It was always for the 2026 midterms as a means of doing the bidding of the president of the United States, who knows he's at a record low in terms of popularity. And then on the flip side, they are now trying to go to the state court and deny the Democratic challenge to the validity of the map. And so it really shows that the Republican Party is trying to do every single thing they can because the congressional map referendum doesn't look like it would go so well for the GOP. And given the way that Prop 50 had gone too, there's a non-zero chance that if this is raised for a vote on the statewide level, that Missouri could end up siding with the Democratic Party. Think about the fact that in California, for instance, you had a margin here on the national level in 2024 that showed Kamala Harris defeated Trump by 20. But in 2025, Prop 50 passed by 30. When you look at states like Virginia that voted for Kamala Harris by 6, that had elections in 2025, same thing as New Jersey, which also voted for Kamala Harris by 6, voted for their respective party candidates in New Jersey by 15 and in Virginia by 16. The overperformances here speak for themselves. And they terrify Republicans in states like Missouri, not just because it's a state that Trump won by 18, which guaranteed Democrats should have at least 2 seats in terms of fair representation, but obviously they don't, and Republicans aren't interested in this idea of fairly drawn maps. But the point is that in Missouri, not only would this be a margin close enough that if Democrats were to invest, could very well sink the map that Republicans are trying to pass, which is why the Republican Party is trying everything they can to stop it. But Republicans have also lost their own battles in states like Missouri, because in 2024, there were some pretty progressive amendments on the ballot there that Democrats ended up winning the popular vote on, because this is a state that, even though it is, one that votes for the Republican Party, when we look at Missouri, we'll find that on some of these top issues, they aren't as conservative as you might think. When you look at things like this, the right to abortion, and that establishing a constitutional right to abortion in the state of Missouri, voters passed it 52 to 48. 52 to 48. This is a question of, are you pro-choice or are you pro-life? And pro-choice won by 4 in a state that Trump won by 19. So while as much as Democrats, again, on one end, could feel fearful about this reaching ballot, 1, it already postpones the map, and 2, there's a non-zero chance that this same voting group ends up turning out in 2026, especially in a Democratic wave year. Increased police funding. The answer was no, 61 to 39, right? Raising the minimum wage, a pretty progressive and Democratic policy, passes by 16. A lot of these salient issues that Republicans try to champion are failing in red states and even in this individual state like Missouri, which further explains why they're worried about this reaching a vote. On a multitude of fronts, Missouri knows that there are ways for this map to fail. Whether it was the sloppy drawing of Missouri's 5th district being cracked 3 different ways, that a precinct is included in 2 different versions of the state's past map, or the fact that it blatantly violates the state's constitution and decision and the writing around a mid-decade redraw, as well as the writing around not drawing out the districts as far as they did, which is what the case is being made by Democrats on the state Supreme Court front. On the flip side, Democrats have the ability to try to halt this map at least by 2 years, and potentially, by a vote of the citizens, could sink this map for the next, 4 years, 6 years, if they are successful. Because Democrats have, in the past, succeeded in passing referendums by the support of some Republicans who aren't fully ideologically aligned with some of the more extreme viewpoints of even their own presidential candidate. Donald Trump has been very public. He's pro-life, does not believe in many exceptions for abortion, as well as the fact that he is proud to have appointed the justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. But when Missouri voters are given the option, 2 questions on the same ballot, Trump or Harris, they choose Trump, but they also choose to be pro-choice. And while I'm not here to say that I think that Missouri would easily greenlight the passage or the sinking of a GOP-led map, there is always that possibility, and more so in Missouri than many people think. And that is why Republicans are so terrified about their current status in a state that previously they would have never had to worry about. And so we'll wait and see what happens out of this federal court. It is a Trump-appointed judge, and I don't think Democrats should be getting their hopes up. But I do think there's a chance that on one end of the courts, whether in the state court or on the federal side, they are cleared at least to get this through to a vote. And whether or not that is the case, we'll have to wait and see. But as it stands right now, Republicans are really trying everything they can to stop this coming to a vote because they know there's a very real chance that it fails. And if it fails, their map will be kicked out, and Democrats will have 2 seats for the remainder of the decade. And all of these theatrics, all of this focus, all of this effort to try to change their boundaries and the wasting of the legal resources, the time, and it would also not be fulfilling for the President of the United States. Missouri Republicans are scrambling, and for reason, because they see things slipping from their grasp. They see Democrats passing Prop 50 in California, a new map in Utah, and Missouri being one of the first states to even initiate a redraw process, might have it stripped away from them either by the courts or by their own voters, which is why they're trying to stop both. Because the Republicans want to do this in the way that they know they can be successful in, by grabbing it, power grabbing it, taking this district for their own without listening to the will and consideration of the courts and voters. And whether they are successful will have to be wait and seen. But as it stands today, the Missouri Republicans are really scrambling to try to stop this from anything happening on their map because they know that there's a chance that it's stopped. And if it does, it only continues to hurt the Republican Party in a way that was on nobody's radar months ago. But now Missouri is in quite an unpopular way. And we will have to wait and see what pans out in both sides of the courts, as well as a citizens-led vote in 2026, if it's allowed to happen. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2026 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.